Now for the final place outside of the playoffs. Seventh place is Peterborough, Theo.
Seventh place. League 1 predictions, 24th to 1st place, starting with Forest Green in 24th. Now I think they'll finish bottom because they lost their manager and 3 of their best players, and I wouldn't say they've got the best replacements in. I think it'll be a tough season for them, and overall it won't turn out a great season for them. 23rd place, I'm going to go with Morecambe. They've never been relegated in their history, which is a shock to me, but I think next season might be the season that they do. They just about survived last season, finishing in 19th, but they've not really recruited the best to finish outside the relegation zone. They don't play the best football, they don't score the most goals, so Morecambe, I think you're going down. 22nd place, I'm going with Vale. They won promotion to League 1 through the playoffs last season. They were a solid side defensively last season, but going forward they weren't amazing, so that will have a massive impact on them next season. The last and final relegation place, I'm going with Cheltenham. They did finish 15th last season after getting promoted, but I do think it'll be a bit of a second season syndrome for them. Now moving on to the mid-table places. Now I don't really want to bore you, so I'll go through them quite quickly. Just surviving, I'm going with Lincoln in 20th. 19th, I'm going with recently promoted Exeter. 18th, I'm going with Cambridge. I don't think they'll go down, but I think they might just about stay up. 17th, Fleetwood. They've brought in a new manager in Scott Brown, and although he hasn't got the most experience, I do think he'll be able to keep them up, although last season they only won 1 out of the last remaining 21 games. 16th, I'm going with Burton, Albion, which is where they finished last season. 15th, Accrington, Slaney is about where they usually finish. 14th, I'm going with Bristol, Rovers. Joe Bolton did an excellent job with them last season, so I think he'll be able to do a really good job with them and do more than just keep them up. 13th, Charlton. I don't think they'll improve on last season. 12th, Plymouth, Argyle. I think they'll have a drop off. 11th, Shrewsbury Town. I do think they'll climb the table a little bit. 10th, Wycombe. They had a great chance to get promoted last season, but they didn't do that, so I think they'll have a drop off. In 9th place, I'm going with Barnsley, which may seem like a little bit of a shock, but they haven't really recruited the best. 8th place, I'm going with Portsmouth. They're starting to get a few more players in, but I don't think it'll be enough to push them into the playoffs. 7th place, just outside the playoffs, I'm going to go with Oxford United. Just outside the playoffs for Oxford. I'm sure they could make the playoffs, but we'll have to see. Just making into the playoffs, I'm going to go with MK Dons. They were unlucky in the playoff semi-finals last season. The next season could be their year, but I do think they'll just make it into the playoffs. They got rid of 2 of their key players in Scott Twine and Harry Darling, which may have a big effect on them, but in the end I do think they'll get there. 5th place, I'm going with Bolton. They've not really recruited much this summer, which is a real shock because they usually do, but from what I've heard they did most of their recruitment in January, so I do think they'll be able to push on and get into the playoffs. 4th place, I'm going with Derby County. Now since being bought they've done a lot of business so far, and overall I do think they'll have a great season, but I don't think they'll get promoted, mainly because I do think they're a bit overconfident at the minute. Many teams have done it in the past, like Sunderland, Ipswich, Sheffield Wednesday, and I do think Derby might lose it at Wembley. 3rd place, just outside the automatics, I'm going with Ipswich. Kieran McKenna's done a great job so far, and if they can bring their form from last season into the new season, I'm sure they will have a great season. Why do I think they'll finish outside the automatics? Well, there's only one reason. I think Posh will finish in 2nd place. We have a great team, the best attack in the league, and we're also pretty good defensively. We've got a decent bit of depth, and in my opinion a championship squad. So comment bias all you like in the comments, but I think we'll finish in 2nd place. Now that obviously leads us to the league winners. This team were unlucky in the playoffs last season, but this season I think they'll win the league. They've done really well in the recruitment side of things, so yeah, Sheffield Wednesday, I think you're going to win the league.